Sky Sports Plus went down at various times in that game. Don't ask for a refund, praise them. Give them more money because you got lucky. Oh, it's like two bald men fighting over a comb. It was terrible.
That might have been more entertaining.
Cut the Hollywood stuff out and let's try and play some simple stuff.
The definition of madness doing the same thing. Expected different results and all that.
And the only way Yates can score that is if he does that Rene Higuita scorpion kick. It's been called a confrontation. It wasn't that. It was just merely a chat.
I think it shows good leadership and most of all it shows massive cojones.
I've been critical of him on here, but what I won't be critical of him of is manning up. He apologised as he was walking past the Luton fans. That takes some balls. That's leadership. That's a class act. Well, at which point do we realise that these people who are getting substituted are of no use to us right now, or a little use to us, and the people that you're bringing on are of maximum use to us?
Get him in. It's Gideon time.
Leyton Orient and the Town served up a dog of a game of football on Tuesday night in a 1-1 draw at Brisbane Road that nobody will remember for too long. Alongside me to look back on the night is the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe. Jimbo, thank heavens for Jordan Clark.
And thank God for Gids.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll praise them both right after this intro. Hello everyone, welcome along to another episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast, the award-winning, longest-running Luton Town podcast. This season the show is in association with Solid, providing opportunities, provisions and assistance so our academy can fulfil their potential. As I said prior to the intro, we're looking back on Leyton Orient 1, Luton Town 1, an absolutely terrible game of football. There's no way of dressing it up any differently. And Jimbo, I don't suppose you can either.
I can't, so I shan't. It was awful to watch, yeah.
Absolutely, it was. Yeah, I got text messages from lots of you out there saying that Sky Sports Plus went down at various times in that game. Don't ask for a refund, praise them. Give them more money because you got lucky. Because I'd have loved my site to have gone down during that game. It was... I don't even know how to describe it, Jimbo. I mean, if I saw that lack of quality on a park on a Sunday morning, I'd want a refund, and I wouldn't even have paid to get in to see that. It was just... Oh, it's like two bald men fighting over a comb. It was terrible.
That might have been more entertaining. It was. I don't really understand. And I never will, how professional footballers just can't pass the ball to each other. It's one thing like not being able to rake a ball across the field, but short passes and not being able to control it. And it's not the first time this season, but it goes from one extreme to the other, doesn't it? We either play like really good, the Stockport game, or we go for that, and there was just nothing. But I mean, you summed it up really well in the instant reaction, which is probably about as long as we should probably give to this. For 90 minutes, it was pointless. Nothing happened. Nothing useful happened anyway. There was a chance, I guess, for Yates at the start, but then not a single shot on target until the goal is mind-blowing.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest worry for me, 2 shots on goal, as in somewhere in the vicinity of the goal, in the entire of the first 90 minutes. And I think one of them was the one that Gideon flashed past the post in the first half, and the second one hit the post from Jordan Clark in the second half. Until he came onto the pitch, we had no quality about us whatsoever. As I said in the instant reaction, this wasn't a lack of fight, lack of effort, lack of intent or any of that. It wasn't that. We've seen plenty of that this season. It wasn't that. This was just an absolute devoid lack of quality. It was almost like I was wearing this blue shirt on that pitch yesterday, because that's the kind of crap that I'd come up with when I play football, because obviously I'm not very good at it, but you would expect so much more. And, let's get it right. Leyton Orient were worse than what we were. I said that we burgled a point off them. I only said that because they were in front. Of course, no one deserved to win that game. That game could still be playing next December, and it should have been 0-0. It was absolutely terrible.
It is true. They were terrible as well.
50% pass completion Leyton Orient had in that 90 minutes. 50%. But that in itself is a problem because every second pass means that it's not going anywhere near their target or to their target, i.e. it's going to us or it's going out of play. Yep, it took us 96 minutes to have a shot on target when the opposition are doing their best to help us.
Yeah, I mean, if it was just the case that we had loads of shots, but they were going nowhere near the target, that's one thing, isn't it? But there was hardly anything, any penetration around the back, any people was nothing going through the middle actually, because everything was whacked out to the sides. We've spoken about this before, but there was nothing. There was no one coming short or linking up play. All the things that you'd want to see, all the things that we've praised about good performances were not there. And I'm not sure I've seen that one. I mean, we've seen bad performances, but the low quality aspect was, mind-boggling.
Yeah, I don't expect professional footballers on either side to deliver quality as bad as that. Jack proved me wrong, Jimbo. I said that he wouldn't play a back four and that Naismith can only play left centre-half. Well, he must have seen it because he did play a back four and Naismith played left centre-half of the two. Ted Mengi was his partner. Nigel Longwake was right back. Cohen Bramwell left back. The two pivots were Walsh and Saville. We'll come on to that because how many more times do we need to see that before we realise that doesn't work? And then I think Jack alluded to the fact that he went 4-2-4. So we'll give it the way that the formation was. Kadir on the left wing, Jacob Brown on the right wing, and Lamine Fanny and Jerry Yates through the middle, although Fanny was dropping off an awful lot more, so he's more of a 10 than he was a striker, and good because obviously if you were to play two strikers and Jacob Brown played on the right-hand side, that would be asking serious question marks. But if we turned up at 8:45 instead of 8:45, wouldn't have missed a thing, apart from the fella going down injured and I think he suffered a fractured jaw that stopped the game for 9 minutes. That was the only incident in that first half, apart from, and it has to be said, and this isn't a witch hunt, I've not got a vendetta or anything like that, but every single pass Naismith played of those diagonals on, he was getting further and further up the stand with them, nowhere near the players. By the fifth or sixth one, surely someone's got to tap him on the shoulder and say, listen, pal, rein it in, because all you're doing is giving the ball away, and all we've got to do is chase it back. Just play it simple, keep it simple. I admire the fact that he tries to play the hard passes, but when it's not happening, and it was clearly not happening last night, I think one of his first 6 hit a Luton player, the other 5 dissected them beautifully or ended up in the stands. When it's not happening, cut the Hollywood stuff out and let's try and play some simple stuff and then build towards the Hollywood stuff, no?
Well, yeah, that would be my sort of thinking. The definition of madness doing the same thing, expected different results and all that, but maybe it's because it worked. I think it was the first time when he raked it to Jacob Brown, and that set up what should have been an absolutely golden chance for Yates. But I've seen people criticise Yates, and if you want to criticise his general output and his work rate or whatever it is that people are criticising, then I won't have an argument with you on that. But on that one chance, that is the simplest goal. Jacob Brown just needs to roll that along the turf in front of him, and it's a tap in. Instead, he pings it waist height behind him. That's not good enough. That it is a simple, simple assist to make, and it should be 1-0. And then the rest of the game can be that low quality. You're not desperate. It's bad, but you're 1-0 ahead. But after that, nothing until maybe the Kadir shot that you said about, which didn't trouble anything.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't even reference the Kadir shot in that first half had the first half not have been that bad. If it was even of a normal quality, then that Kadir shot soon gets forgotten, wouldn't it? What was it, 25 speculative shot that was 5-6 yards wide or whatever it was. Yeah, I mean, the annoying thing with Brown is he saw that assist happen in front of his very eyes on Saturday from Gideon. Rolled it into him perfectly. Okay, I know they were a little bit further out on Saturday than they were then, but yeah, he's got to roll that into his feet. And I mean, the only way Yates can score that is if he does that Rene Higuita scorpion kick from the England-Colombia friendly way back when, isn't it? And even then, he's going to have to pull off a miracle, but that was it. Yeah, I mean, you're right. People who want to criticise Yates, absolutely fair enough. Not his work rate, though. His work rate is very good. It's not his fault that the ball isn't coming anywhere near him. but his runs and his hassling defenders are good.
Well, we spoke about this in the previous podcast. The way to get Jerry Yates to score goals, I think, is doing that. It's just that the assist from Brown was woeful. And I mean, if you're talking about things that don't work, I think playing Jacob Brown as a wide forward for me doesn't work. Doesn't offer enough.
Doesn't work at all, does it? Because and it's got to getting to the stage, as it is with a few of these selection issues that we keep on flagging, where it's not fair on anyone now. It's not fair on the player. He can't possibly perform the best of his abilities in a role that's completely alien to him. It's not fair on the rest of the team who need that position to get us up the pitch. And it's not fair on us watching.
Well, when we've got wide forwards, the likes we have, which we had on the bench, Chade and Morris, then there's no reason for Jacob Brown to be playing a wide forward role. We've got specialists who are electric at that. I appreciate, maybe he's been good in training or whatever that, and that maybe is the disparity, because that is what Jack Wilshere said. There was an incident at the end for the fans, and what he explained afterwards was, they're really hard. If fans could come down to the training ground, they're working really hard, and I don't doubt that, because we've been down to the training ground before, and they do. But there's something that happens there, and that doesn't happen on match days. And I think you've got to judge it on that, really.
Yeah, as I said earlier, this wasn't a lack of effort yesterday. This wasn't Luton not trying. Maybe in 2 or 3 cases, Jimbo, they're trying too hard. But it wasn't a case of not trying. But ultimately, people paid, I think it was 27 quid to get in there yesterday. By the time you've got your train fare down there, most people would have gone on train. These days, what you're looking at, 30, 35 quid for a train ticket to get down there in peak time, food and drink. You've done 80 quid again, and you get served that. I mean, people have got every right to be frustrated. To be fair to Jack, he saw the frustration. It wasn't too far away from me where it's been called a confrontation. It wasn't that. It was just merely a chat.
It's not that, and you can see there's a video, actually. He's very even-tempered. I think the fan might have started off a bit loud, but
yeah, the fan was frustrated.
Yeah,
with
then
what
it's face
he saw.
to face, and then whether it's I mean, it's not a long, detailed conversation or anything, but I've actually got a lot of time for that from Jack. I think that shows a recognition of the situation. I think it shows good leadership, and most of all, it shows massive cojones to go in there, because we've had managers in the past that wouldn't have done that. Some of them just walk straight back down the tunnel. And to do that, I think. I think that could be an important moment. How important, I don't know, but I had a lot of time for that.
Yeah, he understood the frustration, Jack. That was the good thing. And people were well entitled to be frustrated last night. I mean, you just expect a much higher level of natural performance than what we put on. And whether Leyton Orient dragged us down to their level or not, it's by the by. As Luton players, your and Jordan Clark said something similar. As Luton players, your performance level has to be a great deal higher than that as a base minimum. And all too often, we're seeing performance levels not reaching the base minimum standard. And obviously, last night that guy had enough of it, and fair enough. But once they spoke, it looked amicable. It looked just like a normal conversation. They both went their separate ways. They shook hands, and that's how adults should have things out. And hopefully, in the future, we get better and things get better. I mean, poor old Naismith was having a bad night at the office, wasn't he? And it didn't get any better in the second half. Within 5 minutes, he dwelt on the ball, dallied on it. Ballard knew exactly what was happening. He was on him like a flash. Once he's took the ball past him, you just hope that he does what we do and ping the ball a million miles away from the opposition. But he didn't. He rolled in his teammate, who couldn't miss. Bramwell chased it back, but he had no chance of getting back there. And 1-0 down. I think we all saw that there was a mistake coming there, because Naismith didn't look particularly great on the ball in the first half either. And from there, really, you're wondering where we were going.
Well, I thought it was defeat as soon as that went in, really, because there was nothing enough shown to suggest that they were getting back into it. And I guess if you're really scratching around for positives, and it is actually a positive, to have rescued something from a position of almost nothing, that probably wouldn't have happened a while ago. If you're looking for where there might have been improvements under Jack, he's suddenly managing to not lose games that you would have lost, or win games that you would have drawn. it's just the vast difference between performances, the inconsistencies behind them is so big. And I thought there might be a bit of a drop off because some of the players had played in 2 hours in the cup game of the week. But I don't know how we go from Stockport to Leyton Orient, and it feels like it will veer which way and each way and that more because that's the only thing that has been consistent, the inconsistencies.
Yeah, I mean, that is the problem, isn't it? I mean, it's just no one really knows what to. I think one thing that we need to get towards doing, Jimbo, is picking a settled side. Because I do think all this chopping and changing, like formations. We've gone to back four again last night. I still maintain that that it's better in a back four than it is with three centre halves. Listen, I don't think last night was a formation problem. It was just players playing way below the level of them that I would expect. And one or two positions, you've already mentioned Jacob Brown, Cal Naismith. There are better players for those positions form-wise right now that simply have to start being utilised. We saw one of the better players on the right wing when Shaden Morris came on. Okay, he didn't go past his fullback at will because most of the attacks were down the other side. But Jordan Clark's header come from him going past the fullback down that side. I mean, Clark was the first substitute to come on. Needed that. He came on for George Saville. Immediately lifted the Luton fans just having him back. There's a little bit more pep in the sort of step of the Luton fans. You could actually see some of the players had a bit more of a pep in their step as well. We'd done away with that Walsh-Saville partnership, which I'll die on the hill of. It does not work. They're the same player, and it needs splitting up. Clark obviously played further forward, and we had more players that were getting forward. Obviously, we had Gideon down the left-hand side. Morris then came on down the right-hand side. After Yates had gone off, Brown went play centre forward for 5 or 10 minutes, and I wouldn't say we were threatening or anything like that, but we were more in the game at this point. Leyton Orient, what we've got, we keep. They'd retreated. If they'd gone back much further, they'd have been dicing with the Olympic Stadium. But it still wasn't a great night, It's just, you wouldn't even say we huffed and puffed, we put more passes together. Crikey, we couldn't put any less together. We got in once or twice down the bylines and things, and then the final ball was massively lacking. And the strikers must have been pulling their hair out from that. Gids, every time he got the ball, he tried to do something. He lost it as much as he kept it, but at least he was trying to do something. That's absolutely fine. And then all of a sudden, 90 minutes are up. I mean, we've had one good move before then. Nigel Longwake, who I thought was really good last night, one of the better players actually, fed the ball in, fizzed the ball into Jordan Clark. It just opened up for him. He went into the box, shot. I didn't see who it hit, whether it's the goalkeeper or the defender, but it hit someone into the post and out for a corner. And at that point, you're like, that's probably it, because we ain't going to put a move together as good as that for the rest of the night, and it still didn't go in.
Well, that's exactly what I was thinking. And now with hindsight, you're thinking, well, yeah, we pinched a point there, but we could have conceivably won by, with the good chances we had, that one and the Yates one, which was a good chance, except for the final ball. You could have won that game quite comfortably. And we, at the end, were sort of coming out relieved at a point, but not really relieved. I sense that people aren't. Which you probably should be relieved at a point that's better than nothing. If you can't, just don't lose the game is useful. And if you pick up, the points away from home and then your home form's good, I've realised that that's not what's happening at the moment. But that's generally a good formula, isn't it? But yeah, as soon as that sort of clipped the post, you're like, well, that's the one chance. And then at that stage, you're back to the ruthlessness in both boxes scenario, which we've talked of, the players have talked of, Ted and Mengi talked of after the Fleetwood game. And you're like, well, that's the same old story, isn't it? Because they get one chance, or we gift them one chance because they didn't fashion anything. And then we get a good chance and don't take it. And that seems to be a never-ending story, really.
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? I mean, the mistakes we keep making of our own doing, it doesn't really matter what personnel are there and what formation's there. If you make glaring errors like that Naismith one, then it's going to end up in the back of our net, isn't it? I mean, at that point, the goalkeeper was on, you just got to get rid of the ball and make sure it doesn't go to the opposition. But, they knew who they were pressing. It was pretty obvious all night they knew who they were pressing, and they got their joy from that. Everything that was good for us, and there wasn't much, but everything that was good came through Jordan Clark. We had a kind of open in from a free kick where he went to speak to Liam Walsh about something. It was in the centre of the park. There was no angle on it, but Walsh played a lovely ball over the top and Clark was in. But his shot was straight at the keeper or cross. It must have gone down as a cross because we only had one shot on target apparently. But the keeper kept hold of it. I mean, that's about the only thing the keeper did all night as well. And then we had that last but one substitution where Nordos came on for Cal Naismith, which was a substitution that had to happen. May well have been wiser to have made it straight after the goal, really. But, it gets a lot of stick, Naismith. You've heard it in the enclosure in the main stand. I've heard it. I've been critical of him on here. But what I won't be critical of him of is manning up. We've seen players this season who've exited the pitch deliberately not go past Luton fans. And Naismith would have been well within his rights to, because he was going to get pelters at the time that he was coming off the pitch, because people were getting more and more and more frustrated with more and more long passes going absolutely nowhere near their target. And then he was dumbfounded with the mistake. Listen, mistakes happen. That's absolutely fine. He owned up to that as soon as it happened. You could see he had his hand up. And Ted and Mengi, to be fair to him, went and put his arm around his shoulder and obviously told him to forget about it. But he walked past the Luton fans. He apologised as he was walking past the Luton fans. That takes some balls. That's leadership. That's a class act. Now, whilst I have a major issue with Naismith's form in recent time, I don't have a problem with him loving Luton Town. I've never had that problem. And I thought last night, fair play. He could easily have gone he walked off on the halfway line. He could easily have gone the other way round. It'd have looked bad, but he could easily have done it. But he didn't. He walked past the Luton fans. I don't know how close he was to tears towards the end, but he didn't look great. He looked like a broken man as he walked past us, so I'm not going to stick the boot in any further other than to say fair play, because there are weaker people who wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, I think that's important. It's just what happens from here, I suppose, is the main thing. And if his form isn't that great, then that needs to be looked at, because it's happened for many other players whose form has dipped and Jack's been able to change it. And we're in a situation now, we've got enough players where we probably could do that. And I do take it that, captains often play, but I don't think you can overlook the scenario that's happening at the moment. And that's not to say that if he did come out, he couldn't come back and do well. We spoke about this, I think, maybe in the last podcast about Miliali, who had to spend the time out and he looked hungry when he got his opportunity. So it can work like that. But I don't think it's a scenario where we haven't got the options at the moment.
I think for the good of the team, he has to come out of it now. I remember back when we were in the Championship in the early days, and Sluga had this problem, didn't he? He kept on making mistake after mistake after mistake, and the team were working their nuts off and then being undone by a mistake by Sluga. That eventually it got to the stage where he just had to come out of the team, and James Shea went into the team. And I think we're there now with Naismith. That's not to say he should never play for Luton Town again or anything like that. But I think now is the time, for the good of the team, for the good of the people that pay lots of money to go and watch this again. 1,250 of us there last night. Christmas is approaching. It's not an easy time of year to go and support your team. I think for the good of everyone, the player himself, the team, and the fans, just take him out of the firing line now on Saturday and give someone else the opportunity. We're blessed with centre halves. We are okay. There's not another left-footed one. Well, unfortunately, we're just gonna have to take that on the chin. And if the opposition press a right footer in that position, then they do that. But they're pressing a left footer there right now anyway, because it's glaringly obvious where the weak link in that defence is right now. So I think we're in that situation, Jimbo. I think that just taking him out of the firing line, even if it's just for a couple of games, and then in that Christmas period where we've got 4 games, rat-a-tat-a-tat, bring him back in at some point along that time, give him a couple of weeks to freshen his mind up and rejuvenate and come again. But I'd like to think that if he does play Saturday, he'll get supported because he is still our captain. He is still a Luton player. But I think we're at that situation now where Luton fans probably don't want to see him on the team sheet right now because I don't think he's helping the team as much as that position needs to.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a difficult situation because when he was last at the club, permanently anyway, he was the player of the season, wasn't he? He was fantastic.
But that's 4 years ago, isn't it?
Well,
time waits for no man.
This is my point,
as
really.
We've heard about Mo Salah this week.
Well, you and I are well beyond our playing days best, and I'm not saying that this is the situation with Naismith, but I just got more and more frustrated the older I got because the brain could see what I wanted to do, but the legs wouldn't do it. And maybe potentially it could be like a period of confusion and frustration because he used to have a wand of a left foot. If he's 4 years ago in that season raking balls out to the wing, they'd hit the man every time, wouldn't they? And maybe he's hitting these and going, what the hell's going on here? Because the same bloke, it's the same player, it's just a couple of years older and it's just not working. It's just a theory, I don't know really, but I think that a lot of us and a lot of you out there who've got past your playing days will probably have that understanding as well that sometimes the body doesn't do what the mind wants.
Yeah, it's starting to remind me a bit like when Kevin Nicholls came back in the conference days. The body was still there, wasn't it? The footballing spirit was still there, but the body couldn't get him around the pitch anymore, and eventually he called it a day, didn't he? He had that highlight of the JPT trophy win, and it was never the same player after that. Injuries had obviously taken its toll, which hasn't done with Naismith. But yeah, whatever it is, it's time for other centre-halves to play in this team and see if there can be an improvement. I mean, they would struggle to be worse, that's for sure. On Nordos, came on. I'm still of the opinion that if a chance fell to Nordos or it fell to Yates, I'd back Yates to score it more than I would Nordos. But I don't think there's an argument now to say things happen when Nordos is on the pitch that just don't happen when Yates is on the pitch. And maybe I've got him. Maybe it's on me. Maybe I need to sacrifice that belief in Yates burying the chance for the chaos that comes when Nordos is on the pitch, because ultimately if Yates ain't getting the chances anyway, it don't matter if he's good enough to take them or not. So, and things did happen when Nordos came on yesterday. Clark was unlucky with a run to the byline that he tried to lift the ball over the keeper, but he just caught it with Nordos behind. And of course, Nordos causes all sorts of trouble in the middle when the corner comes over, and the goalkeeper absolutely flaps at it. I don't know what he was wafting at, but he was nowhere near the ball. And thankfully, Gideon won the wrestle with Tyree Backinson, I think it was, trying to have his shirt off him. You weren't having that, son. He's saving that for his family after the game. And there he was, Mr. Late Man, nodding in an equalizer, which wasn't deserved, but will gladly take it.
Yeah, he's ruined the super sub tag now as well, hasn't he? Because he started
super starter now, Jimbo.
Get him in. That's his latest goal as well, by the way, isn't it? 96 minutes.
Wait, there's anywhere no later.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, but anywhere from 83, it's Gideon time, isn't it? And that is an excellent thing to have, actually, when we're talking about an evening where barely anything went right. A couple of things did. So Clark coming back, fighting to the end, and somehow now having a man that seems to be in the right place in the right time. Enough now that it's not a fluke. He's got the knack, and if you want to, I don't think you can compare them in the way they play or the position or anything. But we had that in, say, Luke Berry, who would have the knack of being somewhere at the right time, the right place. Not necessarily scoring as many late goals as Gideon's got, but yeah, that's something that definitely is needed. And obviously the strikers aren't weighing in with their fair share of them. Although I maintain Yates should have had a goal yesterday, if not for a terrible, terrible pass from Brown. Then yeah, that's another a positive. So there are small parts of it. It's just like the large landscape of the game was drab, and that's the worrying thing.
Yeah, we didn't lose. There was a positive. We didn't lose. That level of performance is going to lose more games of football than it doesn't. That's for sure. We just got lucky that Leyton Orient were fantastic dance partners and were no better than us. And we managed to get a point out of the game. But if we produce that level of performance, 9 times out of 10, we get absolutely diddly. And in fact, 9 times more often than not, we'll get another Barnsley thumping. It's just the fact that for some reason, Leyton Orient at 1-0 didn't want to go and finish the game off because it was absolutely there for them. It's even after the goal, we did nothing for 10 minutes until Clark came on. So it was absolutely there for them, but they seemed quite content to try and win the game 1-0 and conceded the second most goals in the league. Quite what the rationale behind thinking they could win a game 1-0 was, I've no idea, but thankfully they did, and they sat back and that was good. Yeah, I mean, you can't compare Gideon and Berry for positions, but the one thing you can compare them with is their composure when they are in the penalty box, because he knows where the back of the net is, doesn't he? He doesn't slash at it. I mean, how many times when you're getting wrestled by a geezer who's a foot taller than you, would you just throw yourself at it and that could have ended up anywhere, He doesn't just thrash at the ball. He has a composure and a calmness in that pressurised moment, which, God, I wish 10 of his teammates had, but they don't. And you can certainly see why he's come through a West Ham academy. And obviously he was playing in front of friends and family last night. That's in his neck of the woods, isn't it? And it was good that he got a goal. And was he great during the game? Not all of it. As I say, I appreciated the fact that he tried to do things, even if it didn't necessarily come off. And that was good because not everyone did. But ultimately, when we needed him, there he was.
Yeah, but that's the difference, isn't it, with an attacking player trying things, or certainly a wide player. I think even Jack's Wilshere's referenced this, that they can sometimes be frustrating, but that's because they're taking the risks and trying to make something happen, which he often does as well. So there's that aspect of it. It's not quite the same as, a mistake as the last man at the back where you've got to be, everything perfect, and it wasn't. But yeah, goals wise, and he's scoring all different types as well, isn't he? In that shirt you've got on there, he likes a header.
He does.
Because he got one against Bradford. He's scored that one against Forest Green, which is so composed, a great finish, and he can score all types. And I think for that reason, I mean, he definitely has to be on at the end of a game because that's where he does his business. But as to whether he's forced himself into the starting lineup more, not so sure, because nobody really ingratiated themselves with whoever started on that team sheet at Leyton Orient. But I'd want him on more than not, because like you say, in a team full of players that are playing below par or not scoring goals, he is doing it.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's definitely played his way into the team sheet for me. Yeah, got an equaliser, and do you know what? If there was another 5 minutes on that game, we might well have gone on and won it, because they'd completely flattened out at that point. Not that they were ever any good anyway. And if we don't give them a good beating at our place in 3 weeks' time, they must have seriously improved, because we cannot play as badly as that ever again. I'm sure we can't. I mean, some of the passing last night, forget the long passing, some of the short passing, even when they found the Luton player, it was on the wrong foot. So he's got to then either go backwards or he's got to turn and he's got someone right up his backside. And I'm just like, they can do it, because in the warm-up, 2 of them stand opposite each other, don't they? And they pass it from foot to foot. They can do it.
So what do you think that is then? Is that a pressure thing?
It's got to be some sort of pressure, hasn't it? But where does that pressure come? That's what I mean. Yeah, this is for Jack to sort out, isn't it? I mean, I don't know what it is. Is it psychological? It has to be psychological, doesn't it? These players have operated at a higher level than League One. They all have. All of the ones that stepped foot on that pitch last night have either dominated in League One or played at a higher level than League One. And here we were playing one of the worst opposition performances I've ever seen in League One. And we tried to get them to hold our beer and be even worse. And I don't get it. I think some of it is certain players on the pitch in positions that don't naturally suit them. Longwake would have been another one last night, although I thought he was really, really good. That was definitely his best performance outside of centre half last night, without a shadow of a doubt. Put a block in the first half as well from a set piece that he had absolutely no right to block, but he threw himself in front of it, and fair play to him for that. And as I say, he played a pass in the first half that set Lamine Fane through. It was just a ball from the right into the centre, and Fane controlled it, looked to his right, had no one to give the ball to. So then by the time he'd got it under control so that he could go to his left, they'd obviously worked out that there was no one to the right, and they had Gideon covered, and you just kind of like stay in your structure. And if we'd had Shaden Morris down that side, or we'd had, I know he's injured, but we had Eddie Jones down that side, then all of a sudden Fane would have had the ball. What would he have been? What was he, 30, 40 yards from goal? He'd have had an option left that the defender would have had to cover, an option right, and then he'd have had the straight on and the slide ball through to Yates. But just because he didn't have the right hand side, they'd all covered the other options, and in the end, he ended up going down a blind alley. And that's why I'm encouraged by this formation, because we can get into them positions. We've just not got the right people in it for me. And I mean, I said in the last podcast, didn't I, that I would have expected Jacob Brown to show me some Premier League quality against a League Two team. Well, I was expecting the same in fact, I'm still crying out for Brown to show me some Premier League quality since he's come back. And I know that he's not played for a long time, but that's a fourth or fifth appearance. He should be getting up to speed now. And if he's not getting up to speed now, I'd want to know why. That's the whole point of him playing these games. He wouldn't have looked out of place in the conference last night, save from a defensive effort, which I'm sure he's not in the team to do anyway. His passing was poor. You've referenced that assist, which is really not a difficult assist. It's got the whole of the space from the penalty spot to where the goalkeeper's standing to put that ball in for Yates, and he puts it, by the penalty spot, but Yates has gone forward by that point. Some of his passing was terrible. I never really saw him hassling a defender particularly much. When he went to centre forward, it was nothing. That's why Nordos came on, and then eventually Zach Nelson came on for Brown. I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything, and and it's frustrating not seeing anything from him when you've got Morris on the bench, when you've got Ali, who's not even in the squad last night, when you've got the likes. Obviously, Richards was ill, I think Jack said, and these people. I'm not personally someone who correlates performance level to pay packet, but there are, people know that he's a well-paid individual, and he's not showing anything to suggest that he's at the level that we're playing at, let alone, he should be dominating this league. He should be dominating this league if we signed him as a Premier League player, and he's not. And
well, we signed him as a Championship player that could maybe potentially make the league.
We thought he could play in the Premier League, didn't we? But he's not even playing in League One levels at the minute. I mean, what is it? The fifth game he's played back? I think it is the fifth game he's played. Can you remember one impact that he's had on a game in those five? I can't think of it. I can't honestly think of. He's definitely not got an assist he should have done last night. He obviously hasn't scored. Forget that penalty on Saturday. It was a well-hit penalty, albeit at the height that the keeper could save it. But I honestly can't think of an impact he's made in the game. And that's the very least experienced players have got to start doing for this team, is making impacts. Now, earlier in the season, I criticised Clark for not impacting enough games of football right at the start of the season. Not now. He impacts every single time he's on the pitch, and thankfully he's back, and he impacts the game now, whether it's an assist, whether it's goals, whether it's key moments that set us on our way from other. I'm not getting that from Brown. And because there's other people in that position, I think we need to start going down that route, because the last 4 or 5 games, we've finished the games really, really well. Because the same people are coming off the bench, replacing the same people that are getting substituted. Well, at which point do we realise that these people that are getting substituted are of no use to us right now, or a little use to us, and the people that you're bringing on are of maximum use to us? And go with the people that you're bringing on, and then have those ones that are of no use to us to come on should we need them later down the line.
Yeah, well, I know there's a school of thought, and many schools of thought, isn't there? But the school of thought that sometimes it's based on reputation. Oh, he's played in the Premier League, or he's played, Championship most of his career and should be able to do it. But I think it has to be horses for courses, and if they're not performing, said it already. There's enough players there, and particularly in the wide areas, there's no real need to be playing a man who I think Jack views as a 9 or as his best position to be playing him out there. It doesn't serve him as well as everybody else, does it? That's not going to be his best place. He'll run and all day, but it's not what we really need him to do. Whereas, for instance, you give the ball to Shaden Morris, and his first instinct is going to be to take on the man that's marking him, and more often than not, he's got the beating of him because he's got this electric pace. So yeah, it doesn't really make any sense for me. So it's just one of those things that we're going to have to address this week before the Port Vale game, because I think that team sheet's going to be all important. I mean, we'll talk about that in the preview podcast, I imagine. But if you get to the stage where the manager's having to go into the crowd, and I applaud him for that, but to have a word with some fans, then I think that feeling has rippled out as well to other people. Because it's on telly, you could watch it on telly as well. So you're right in the instant reaction to have seen the quality drop so far from playing in the Premier League and really going toe to toe with the big boys to that sort of performance, when we know they can be better because we've seen it already this season, is a really baffling one.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. I was disappointed with the team sheet, Jimbo. Fair play to Jack, he proved me wrong. He went with a back four, and I was absolutely delighted with that. But they defend with such a high line. I mean, there were times where they were defending 10 yards inside our half. That was crying out for Morris down that right-hand side, to have the whole half of the pitch to run into. And I guarantee you, if Morris was at the start of that assist for Yates, he finds Yates. He probably would have come in a bit closer and then found Yates, but he would have definitely found Yates, because you just have to look at the cross that fouled Clark. The one time he did get past his man in the second half. And there was no point in bringing him on in the second half because they dropped 30 yards deeper by the time they scored. We needed him on at the start. They must know that Leyton Orient have a high line. Salford picked it off at will on Friday night, and Jack referenced that they all watched it in the hotel. So they must have seen that they have a high line. Jacob Brown, okay, he's no slouch, don't get me wrong, but, he's got to give Morris 20 yards over 100 yards, I would wager, to keep up with him. It was just crying out for Morris. Now, if this myth about Morris can't do 90 minutes is true, well, that's fine. Get Morris to do the 70 minutes and then bring Brown on for 20 minutes, or if we're ahead by that point, then bring someone else on of a more defensive nature. That's absolutely fine. But that baffled me last night, and yeah, there it was. And the other thing that baffles me is maybe he's just like absolutely clarifying it in his head, but this Walsh-Saville partnership just does not work. Clark changed the game when he came on, but it wasn't because Jordan Clark came on. It was because that partnership split up and we had someone else further up the pitch being able to create things in and around their back four, whereas Walsh and Saville sit really, really deep alongside each other. Now, I understand that he doesn't want to go all guns blazing, and he's mentioned it many a time, hasn't he, and leave ourselves open to transitional moments and counter-attacks and things like that. And that's why earlier on in the season, when Walsh and Saville weren't playing alongside each other under Jack, we had Cal Naismith going in there and filling up the extra man. And you wouldn't want Cohen Bramwell to do that as a left-back because you would want his athleticism going down the wing. I understand all of that. And we don't have a Doffin at right back to do the same thing. And you certainly wouldn't want Longwake going into centre of midfield to push a midfielder on because he doesn't look as comfortable away from centre half. So I get that. So it might be that when we get a Doffin and or Walters or Jones, that twosome gets split up, and that naturally changes. We have an extra midfielder further forward. It would be a 6 and 2 8s, and then obviously your fullback will go in and stop the transitional moments, a la Pep Guardiola back in the day. And I get that, and that might be fine. But we're at home on Saturday against bottom of the table, who I don't think are going to come out at us. Pretty sure if they get a 0-0 draw, they'll celebrate it like I will when I open Christmas presents on 25th of December. So there isn't a need for the two of them on Saturday. Now's a good time to have a look at something different. And whichever one it is, and last couple of games, Saville's form has really dropped off a little bit from where he was at the start of the season. I thought he was really, really good, but he very poor first half against Bolton. Didn't really get into the game at all last night. So you'd say right now that would be Walsh, with someone like Fanny alongside him who can do the two roles, to combine the two roles, and then hopefully Clark's fit to start, or even if he's not fit to start, I'll be amazed if he doesn't start based on last night. As your third midfielder, and then go from there. But it just doesn't work, those two alongside each other. They're too deep. We can't get forward. We can't create anything through the middle. You referenced it right at the start of the podcast. We had to keep going wide. Well, that's why, because two of the three midfielders are so deep that we can't use them.
Yeah, and maybe that changes with Clark being back, because he offers that more forward-looking aspect. He snipes around in the pocket like a scrum half in rugby, doesn't he? Like looking for spaces, and that's really useful. We didn't have any of that. And, that's not really Fanny's role. He's best. He's box to box. He's all power and stuff. But, precision in the small spaces, then you'd rather have Jordan Clark there, wouldn't you? And, we talked about the fact that he was back training, whether he'd come back in for the two previous games. Well, I think now he's probably shown that it's time for Jordan Clark to come back. And even if that means, as you've said there about Morris, he has to play 60 minutes or 70 minutes and come off, you'd rather that to get a strong stranglehold in the game, rather than this constant look for late goals. As good as Gideon is at them, you're not always going to get them. And then, I'd rather, and I've said this before in many, many podcasts, I'd rather start off strong, and defend something that you've built up from the start, rather than chasing something. So, maybe that's the option.
Well, when you do get Gideon's late goals, you want them to be winners, don't you? You don't want them to be equalisers. That's what he's there for. You want them to win. But these players, every time they've come on the bench off the bench recently, they've delivered.
Yep.
It's time now to start them, and the ones that aren't delivering from the start, and they're glowingly obvious now. They really are. They're getting more and more obvious. And it just so happens they're experienced players, as I keep on calling. The younger players are the ones that are doing things, and the experienced ones are the ones that tending to be holding them back. It's time for the shift around now, and getting those good finishers in from the start and those poor starters towards the end.
Preaching to the choir here, mate. Yeah, I agree.
We'll see if Jack does that on Saturday. If he wants to invite me down to training, I'll gladly point that out to him, because it really is getting right on my nerves. It's great that we've got these finishers. Don't get me wrong, but if the first team's got to play an hour of mumbo jumbo before we see these people, it's just not serving any purpose whatsoever. So that was a chance missed last night, Jimbo. They were a poor side. They were nowhere near the side I thought they were. If you're a Leyton Orient fan watching this, of course, Aaron Connolly's out for the rest of the season, and that was good for us, but not good for you guys. And obviously, Karoma, who was his replacement, went down with a fractured jaw after 15 minutes or whatever it was. So maybe they are better than what they showed last night. But I would imagine the other 22 teams in the league beat Leyton Orient on that performance last night. They were dreadful.
Yeah, well, but so were we. So.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's a chance missed.
Yes, it definitely was to get those points.
We'll take the point, but it's 2 points dropped.
Well, it does ramp up the pressure really on Port Vale, who I fully expect to come and do a Rotherham, if I'm honest with you. And so that's a whole different solution to try and figure out how to do that. But again, that probably lends itself to one man, and we'll probably talk about that in the preview podcast. But it's if you can't beat Port Vale, I think there's going to be more conversations Jack might need to have with fans.
He'll be having quite a few conversations, I suspect. Yep, you're right. Yep, opportunity missed, 2 points dropped, albeit a point gained from where we were going into injury time. And I've no idea how he found 10 minutes, but I'm glad he did find 10 minutes. You know what I mean? Crikey, O'Reilly. Why he played 9 minutes at the end of that first half. I know there was the injury, but no one needed 9 more minutes of that nonsense. No one. Get that Fleetwood ref back. Call it off early. if ever we have to watch that again. 1-1 draw though, Jimbo, and plenty of people out there went for 1-1 with our predictions. Tom Long 81, Nick Weatherhead, T Watts LTFC Quinny. Just to answer your question about goalkeepers, yes, I do believe we've got good goalkeepers at the club. I think Josh Kearley, if he's not the best goalkeeper in this division, he's certainly one of them, and he showed that at that place last season, where he was their player of the season, and I can quite clearly see why he was their player of the season last season, because there was no one last night who could have been it, that's for sure. Highland Hatter, Barry Pugh 9964, David Coop, all said 1-1. You'll get 3 points on our leaderboard, and if that's got you into the top 5, your name will appear in the Port Vale preview, which will be out to you later on in the week. That's pretty much it for this episode of the podcast, Jimbo. I can't say any more about that.
I don't know how we've managed to say that much, to be honest.
I did not enjoy that last night at all, and it's a shame because it's a good away day or away night, or it should be. Good away end, 1,200 or so. You can make a lot of noise, but I mean, if I lived in one of them flats, the old shutters would have been down and I'd have been going to kip well before the full-time whistle. Horrible game of football.
Agreed.
Absolutely horrible. No more of that again, Town. Thanks to everyone who came up to me last night. Loads of you did. Do you know what? Either side of me last night, row in front and row behind, both told me how they listened to the podcast and everything. So I've been under a bit of pressure on this one to actually get the game right because, everyone's seen the same game as me. They were literally sat right with me. So thanks to everyone who said how much they're enjoying the podcast. And, I don't think you've enjoyed this one, but hopefully you'll enjoy future ones to come.
Oh, yeah, we're in a different room just for this one as well, by the way. We are still in Marsh House, but because we recorded in the studio, somebody's booked that out to do some singing and whatnot. So if you were noticing why it's a little bit different, if you're watching on the video, that's the reason. But we shall be back in there for the Port Vale reaction.
Will indeed. Yep. On that note, thanks to all the folks at Marsh House, the proud new home of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast, and to Sean Grant and the Wolfgang for all of our intro music. Just before I completely wrap this up, the player event that the Trust are hosting on Sunday afternoon, there are just a few tickets remaining. You've got until midnight Thursday night to get your tickets. So if you want to go to that, make sure you get that. All the details on our socials. So from Jimbo and myself, till next time, which will be a preview of a big-looking Port Vale game now. No more of that nonsense, please, Town. Much, much better on Saturday.